Is this thing on? Um, oh my God, bugger me. I just talked into a microphone for about 5 minutes. Didn't even realize I hadn't started the stream. Welcome to Good Chats, where sometimes I don't even hit the streaming button. That's how bad it gets. Welcome. Welcome aboard. Um, oh my God. Oh, dearie me. Well, at least I've had a bit of a rehearsal of the first 5 minutes of the stream. Sorry about that. But good thing is, at least, Josh, you're here at the start of the stream for a change. Um, so sorry about that. Whoops. Maybe next time, JK should send me a Facebook message or something and just be like, yeah, have you actually hit start stream yet? Oh well, gave me a chance to, yeah, like I said, practice the script. Welcome to Good Chats. What the hell is going on here? This is a live stream that I do at 8:15 p.m. every Wednesday when I remember to hit the start stream button. That is, at least, and then sometimes it starts at 8:26. But just I don't know if it can get much worse than that. We'll see what happens next week. So yeah, welcome. We talk about the videos that I've done. We talk about things that you guys have been doing this week. So please let us know what you've been up to, and we can talk about that. It's great to have everyone's feedback, and I also listen and learn a lot from all of you guys too. Thanks, Josh. So thanks heaps to Daryl, JK, Train Spotters Worldwide Guide, O'Malley, and Josh for jumping in, and all the other people who were just waiting around for something to happen while the black screen was on for a while. God. Thanks. Welcome aboard, Riel. Absolutely no idea how I still have an audience, but hey, that's how I learn, by making mistakes. So here we are in week 64. Yeah, Josh, life's mad busy. This video that I just did, and we'll talk about that. How did that trip go from Tailem Bend down to Surbiton? That was a fun trip. We talked about... It's not an old man cap. Watch out. I'll show you what. Show you an old man cap. Yeah, man, they're the old flat caps. They're meant to be kind of a rough kind of cap in England, I think. But everyone here just calls it an old man cap. I've even had people call it a beret, and it's not a bloody beret, all right? We also talked about which state had the most railway lines in Australia, and I've got an answer to that. Yeah, punter's hat. That's a good one. Alfred McBain. That is a name that I've been after. It's been on the tip of my tongue for a long time. But yeah, I found the guy who designed all of those railway stations, Bordertown, Penola, Wallaroo, and a whole bunch of buildings all around South Australia. So it's a very interesting history. I won't tell you about the whole lot, but we'll just focus in on that a little bit. And then I've got a book of the week. I don't know if you guys get Catch Point, the sacred inner circle of railways. We might even talk about a couple of bits and pieces in there. Otherwise, I do have some more interesting books on my very learned-looking bookshelf behind me there. And then we might go through some of the unused photos that I didn't use, that I'd collected through my research, and videography that I'd collected from being out there that I didn't use in the last video. So I've been talking for a lot longer than this stream is going, but that's pretty crap. So excuse me for a sec. And we are back. So, and shout out to all the new people or the lurkers who are here listening in as well. let us know where you're at, what's happening around your way, what might interest you about history, South Australian railways, architecture, and stuff that's just sort of related to visual storytelling that I do. I didn't drive all the way back home from Surveston in one hit, straight after. I think I stopped Tailem Bend. Yeah, I stopped at Tailem Bend. Bought some really crappy service station food. Stopped at a roadside stop somewhere, just somewhere around Keith or something like that as well. I can do 3.25 hours in one hit if I'm particularly motivated, but generally not at the end of the day. Bloody beautiful drive though. That's why I do love having the opportunity to do what I do, driving through the countryside out there during sunset, out there on the plains and whatnot is just amazing. It's hard to find the words. What else? So that's it. We've got plenty to talk about tonight, and that's leading into that. Yeah, I can't stand service station road. I mean, when I was younger, I used to. It's kind of exciting, but these days it's like, ugh, yuck. And I do everything I can to avoid it. Yeah, it was a long trip. Took about 13 hours. I left at 8:30 in the morning and got back 9:30 at night. Because I can plan these things and research them and look at how long it takes on Google Maps as long as I like. But generally, once I'm out there, things happen. So I'll find Chico roll's not too bad, just one. There'll be other things that I find while I'm out there, like that control room at Tintinara, or Les down at who gave me the cut lunch and bottle of water tour of Surveston Station, which was really cool, and certainly was not expecting that. So that meant that I left a lot later than I'd planned to, which is great with daylight savings, because this kind of stuff just isn't possible in winter time. The days aren't long enough to go that far. So I like getting out that distance. So the days do get away, and I do need extra time, I think, to spend out there, perhaps in trips to come, or if these trips ever became sponsored or professional or whatever, then I definitely need to have more days out there, so I don't have to spend a lot of that middle of the day shooting in what can be really harsh lighting conditions, particularly if I could book any kind of day, it'd be the day where the sky's probably about 30% blue sky and probably about about 70% blue sky and about 30% fluffy white clouds, just that perfect sky. Oh, g'day, Stu's Adventures. I hope that's how I pronounce it, Stu's Adventures. The Karoonda line for dirt bike riding. Oh yeah, definitely those old tracks out to the Pibinga line, I think. That looked like perfect dirt bike riding territory. Yeah, definitely the Pibinga line. There's 100 odd Ks of dirt bike, perfect sort of conditions, I reckon, now the rail line's been removed. But the interesting thing about this line is, there's just so much railway history along the Duke's Highway there that you just shoot by. I know I've shot by it many, many times without even giving it a second thought. But in quite a few places there is a bit left. Even a rail tie, JK spotted it for me. I didn't know what it was when I looked at it in the video, but that was a rail tie, and I don't know if that was part of the old line or part of the new line. I don't think it's part of the new line. Rail ties, for those who are into rail ties, look pretty different. Last week we talked about how many. The question was asked, which state has the most railway lines in Australia, do you think? And I went off and did some research, and I found this on statista.com, and I'm just going to bring it up. Let me see if I can make it mildly presentable for the internet, and then I will do a screen cap, and then we'll probably end up staying on this screen for the rest of the stream. So I'll do this warily. I couldn't actually screen cap the website because it's a subscription service. G'day, Kaznik. Welcome aboard. Thanks for coming aboard. And sorry, I haven't formatted this properly either. I've just pulled this off the website. So the way to read that is Queensland, just pips Western Australia. Subscribing to Statista.com, I mean, Josh. So I can subscribe to Statista.com to save this information, in a better format or whatever. And I'm like, stuff that. New South Wales comes in third. Now, I don't know if any of you are getting a calculator out and just adding all of this up, but it's pretty close between Queensland and Western Australia. But I reckon Queensland pips them by just a little bit because we're looking at 7.5. We're looking at, about 7.4. So Queensland's actually got the most, and most of it is narrow gauge. Now, if you look at next one, Western Australia, they have got a whole lot of broad gauge railways. I mean to say standard gauge railways. These are narrow gauge railways here. Sorry about the formatting, guys. So suffice to say, number one was Queensland with lots and lots of narrow gauge railways. Second was Western Australia with lots and lots of standard gauge railways. Third was New South Wales with mostly standard gauge railways. In fact, almost all standard gauge railway. And then there is good old South Australia, with the bulk of South Australian railways being standard gauge. Tasmania, most of their railways are narrow gauge, almost all of them. Northern Territory has a lot of standard gauge, and we all know why, the GAN line. And the ACT has the smallest railways department in the country with only 6 k's of standard gauge line. So before I forget to get out of that screen. Yeah, indeed. So, and a lot of it, I think maybe I was reading that wrong, Daryl, too. So maybe you're right. It's not broad gauge. They've got mostly standard gauge, but they've got an awful lot of railway line out there. And that's not even counting the timber lines. I think I looked at starting to do the research for which state had the most railway lines. But that's a big project. I'd probably have to get hairy legs tracks out. And I could probably bring that up in the background here. And you'd have to count them or have to find some way to get in touch with this guy and ask him how many, what are they called, KML paths he's got in his database. Because if you just look at them in the way that we're about to look at them on Google Earth, they're all kind of linked up into a big path set, which makes it very hard to count, so to speak, very hard to turn into individual lines and look at it. So here we go. And now we'll turn all the countries, all the states lines on. I'll just screen cap that and we'll transfer over and screen cap. So here we are in Google Earth. And I've just highlighted this map of all the railways in Australia. So it's a little bit stuffed up by all the names. So I'm going to take all the names out and just leave. This does have a lot of Western Australian timber tramways. I'm just going to take out all the words. And we'll just be left with the lines, which once I'm done with this, Queensland, we'll shut all of them down, shut all the names down. A bit hard to see with all the words all over it. Okay, so there we go. We'll zoom out. So that is this pretty awesome map of all the railway lines in Australia. And so Victoria is pretty much covered in railway lines, but Victoria's a small place. And Western Australia, and this is one of the reasons why they've got an awful lot. We'll zoom in a bit on Western Australia. you see all these what must be mining tramways, and you see all this crazy amount of timber tramways down here as well. All of the river ports. No, Manning was a river port, and that doesn't have a railway to it. They kind of counted Apamara as being a point, and a lot of businesses did transfer stuff to the railway line from Manning to Apamara on the old Sedan to Cambrai line. But yeah, we're just looking at these timber tramways, and then you've got these old wheat lines. And then I'm guessing this is around Kalgoorlie when you would have all these mining lines and whatnot. So that is a crazy amount of railway lines, and you just really can't even compare. There's nothing that even comes even remotely close to that in South Australia. Um, Similarly, in Victoria, you do have a lot of timber lines down there. Yeah, not far from Melbourne. I guess that's in the Yarra Ranges and stuff like that. Now, I thought New South Wales had a lot of timber tramways, but it turns out they don't. Not compared to the other states, at least, anyway. Um, and Queensland, well, where they get their amount of railways from, I don't know, but I'm guessing it's because there's an awful lot of really long outback lines there in Queensland. So, yeah, there's that's how it is, folks. Now, if I was to try and break that down and count that, that's too big a task for for a mere internet volunteer like me. So, if anyone else can find some stats on that, please feel free. Please share them. I'd love to know, or if anyone might have a contact that has that kind of information at hand. But to do that research from scratch, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening. All right, let's transfer out of screen cap before I forget that again. And so we're going to move on to yeah, right. Probably cane lines. Yeah, they would have a lot of cane lines, but those cane lines weren't included in Hairy Legs tracks. So somebody should write a letter to Hairy Legs, old Hairy Legs, and ask him to get all those railway lines on there. But it's painstaking stuff. I did find a discussion of the bloke and what he's done on Railpage, and it's staggering the work that's gone into it. It really is. So yeah, I do respect that resource a lot, and I've spoken about how to download this and have a look. And so for everyone who loves railway lines and whatnot and the history and generally what I do is follow them. So I need an easy resource, and this has made it very, very easy for me to zoom in and find things. And it's quite entertaining at times. So we'll move on to Alfred McBain Bonython. Now he's the guy who designed most or all of these railway stations and this Edwardian architecture that I'd always been interested in. And I found, as I was doing the research for this line, I was digging a little bit deeper because I knew Bordertown Station was a same architectural design as so many others around the state, like Penola and Moonta and Wallaroo, and they were just scattered all over the place, which seemed weird. So, somewhere along the line, here we go. So, yeah, sorry, Kasnick, New South Wales were third in the railways. Alfred McBain Bonython. There's a really interesting article on Architects Database at unisa.edu.au. But if you Google him, Alfred McBain Bonython and railway stations or architects, you'll probably come up with this. And there's a much bigger story around his life. He lived from 1865 to 1954. He had a pretty bloody good innings, and a lot of buildings dotted around the state are his design. So here we go. I'll read a couple of paragraphs from this one because this is interesting. This is a lot of influence on design during the web era. Whereas numerous draftsmen constantly executed the bulk of the adaptations of the engine running sheds and English villa-style stations designed largely in the 1880s, the few departmental architects were occasionally permitted to update the in-house pattern book. Bonython introduced Edwardian flair, replacing the flat single-pitched roofs of weatherboard-clad sheets with steep, double-pitched hipped, gabled, or, being a keen advocate of ventilation and shelter, louver-ended roofs extended by cat slides and by broad strutted awnings. A.G. Pendleton, Commissioner of Railways of the day, blessed Bonython's revolutionary design of Moonta Station in 1908, of which replicas were built at Penola, Tailem Bend, Wallaroo and Murray Bridge, and clearly Bordertown. A novel upper-level belvedere did duty not as a signal box, but as a ladies' lavatory accessible only from the ladies' waiting room below. In 1910, Bonython similarly supplied a standard station master's cottage design, and they were found built from local materials everywhere from Cape Thevenard to Wellesley. Okay, and then in 1942, at the age of 42, became the father of a fourth daughter, and his 21-year-old son had enlisted soon to fight at Gallipoli. Crazy days. So, next up, aware that the modernity of Moonta Station was not wholeheartedly embraced, Bonython worked up a less Anglo-Indian, more post-Federation Australian design for the small Anguston Station in 1910. This experimental blend was refined, if not perfected, at Tatiara Downs in 1914 and later at Mount Gambier. But its acceptance too was shown to be resisted when a long outmoded menorah-style design was preferred in 1912-13 for Tanunda on the same Barossa Valley line. To devise these model stations in the southeast, Bonython had required the assistance of Victor Nyberg, an emigrant Swede, who had spent 5 years working in South Africa before arriving in South Australia. The superficial Cape Dutch styling of the remodelled Quorn station is likely to be the result of a separate alliance of Bonython and Nyberg during the latter's stay. Together, they rationalised the department's stock designs and determined that the elemental shapes of the southeast station buildings would, nonetheless, distinguish for many years to follow numberless railway ancillaries, from lower-class stations to wayside stops, from fettlers' barracks to porters' cabins, all across the state. Charming small structures in a family of forms could then be found from Coburn to Aldea, Wukalla to Gilbert Siding. And that's pretty much the story of the architecture of South Australian railway stations. Aside from Adelaide Railway Station, which is obviously a much bigger thing, which would require a much bigger team of architects and engineers, and I'm not sure how Bonython was involved in that, but this has a lot to say about the styles of South Australian railway stations. And so we've got the Edwardian style, we've got the post-Federation style, we've got the menorah style, and then we've got the Cape Dutch styling. So there's a few threads there for me to go down and learn a bit more about the styling, and perhaps even at some stage we can go right into the Adelaide Railway Station, which is incidentally one of the grandest railway stations in the world. Book of the week. Probably won't talk about Catch Point tonight because I'm banged on about enough railways so far. So I'm going to have a look in the bookshelf there and see if we can find something. As we always do each week. It could be anything. Last week it was a Mad magazine. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Finally, it's an intelligent book. Okay. So, what I've got here is a book that I got in, I think, 2014. It was published in 2002. That's a pretty late model. That's a really good question, O'Malley. And you know exactly the design we're talking about. And it's on the tip of my tongue somewhere. There was a lead into what the name of that design was. I know they call it menorah style in this article that I found, but there's definitely another name for it as well. But this book I found, it's a 2002 release. I bought it from the pop-up bookshelf in the Central Market, I think in 2014 or something like that. And this is an inspiring book, actually. It's one of the reasons why I'm here. And that's Alain de Botton. He's a European French, I think, but please don't quote me on that. and it's called The Art of Travel. Single-handedly, de Botton has taken philosophy back to its simplest and most important purpose, helping us to live our lives, right? And so this is kind of on the philosophy of travel and sort of why we travel, and how we travel, So he talks about, concepts and themes around departure, and on the anticipation of travel and on traveling places. Then he talks about motives. He talks about landscapes. He talks about art, and he talks about the return. So he talks about travel as an activity and about as a habit, and there are just so many. It's reflections of an expert philosopher as he travels the world to some really interesting places, to some really mundane places as well. Those of you who know me know I'm kind of inspired by this stuff. I had Bill Bryson the other week with his travels around America, and this is kind of what inspired the whole journey where I started doing the advanced diploma of professional writing, and I was doing a lot of creative writing, poetry, script writing, all that kind of stuff, and that kind of led to Bachelor of Media and what I do now is work, and it led to creation of this. But this goes right back to the days when I started traveling. I wasn't necessarily making videos then, but I started to get the opportunity to travel more and have the motivation to travel more, and this gave me those philosophical reasons to travel more. So why do we do it? I don't have to go to these places, right? There's nobody holding a gun to my head, and I do it. And you could just make it. You could easily say I do it because I love it. But again, what is the motivation? I love it, and so what I decided I wanted to do was travel and write letters to the world about it. And I wrote this many, many years ago as I was, making notes on travel and whatnot. And essentially that's still what I'm doing by making these YouTube videos and by having this live stream as well. It's travel is kind of part of, it's not a thing in itself. The motivation for me is to get out there and be in these places and share my experiences with the world, because we all have the opportunity to do that. And I want to make sure that my version of the way I see things and the way I learn things, integrated with everything that I get from all of you and everybody else in the world, I want that to be recorded. So yeah, that's where it all comes from. Okay, right, we're away from the deep stuff now. That was Book of the Week. Awful lot deeper than a couple of Mad magazines. But that's how we roll on Outdoors Type. Yeah. Traveling with Mike. We're getting there. We're like the Leyland brothers, just with railways. So, next thing I got teed up is some of the footage and some of the old photos as well. I did want to show you this photo, actually. This is the old Duke's Highway in 1930. And this is why they had railways. Oops. So this is a photo from the State Library, and I couldn't find a way to work it into the video. I realised a little bit late, maybe. But this is the Duke's Highway in 1930, and so now you know why railways were the preferred method of transport, and I think that goes some way towards explaining why roads are now the preferred method of transport, because this is them just starting what they called back in the day metaling of the road, which we know now as just laying out bitumen, but these guys are essentially just laying stones in there, a bit of tar on top, I think is how that worked. So yeah, that didn't make it into the video. Let me see if I can find the other ones. Got a few more images of Surveston, which didn't make it into the video. They're either the wrong shape or the sort of slightly wrong location. But I found these on Flickr, which unusually were under a commercial attribution license. So this was from GSWRHS Flickr channel, and you can find the link in the last video that I did. You can link to that and find more of their work on Flickr. Use that one in the video. Use that one in the video. Use that one in the video. There's another one of the loco sheds, which are opposite from Serviceton Station. So I don't know if you remember the hole in the video that was before, and there's a drone going straight up over the hole. This was sort of some of the ashing pits, and some of the stuff that was down around this area on the left of this photo. So much they've just been ripped up and grown over. This was a photo of the wheat harvest being readied for railing at Coomanduke. And so that's how that used to roll back in the day. Use that photo. Use that photo. Oh, here we go. Now here's station tours with Les. These should have sound in it too, these videos. Which will be interesting. Oh, maybe they don't. Oh, there we go.
That's all your bloody ration books. I'll turn this light on here for you. This was the customs office here.
Oh, can't really hear me and Les talking, but there you go.
All this railway line out here, that was all out in the scrub.
Look at that. You're about to meet Les.
Turntable.
But what an amazing amount of information this guy had. It's crazy.
All these lines out here, 3 sets of lines. Station here, State Hospital living quarters here, station after.
Crikey, that's...
They had over 200.
I would love to have gotten more light in here
2 shifts.
and brought that up a little bit.
The whole up there, everything.
Or filmed in a bit higher res, so I could have maybe saved it. But it was pretty dark in some of these rooms. They apparently do functions and events and weddings and stuff here too.
Here,
But just the light coming into this building at this room at this time of day.
the pieces you pick up.
Oh, I thought it was spectacular. It does. It's funny how all you guys are creeped out by it. No, I just saw this really, really genuine country bloke who was just so lit up by the fact that somebody was interested in all this stuff, that he'd put so much work into separating and laying out. You can see it's, he hasn't gone around there and polished everything, but you could tell just how much it all meant to him, which was pretty cool. At first, I did think it was a bit random because he kind of just, as I was coming up the stairs, he kind of popped out. He must just wait there for people or something. I don't know.
More impressive. Wow.
Yeah, this is the lounge room here, the restroom room out there. Everything. What you see in here is all original.
Yeah, so I only showed a little bit of this in the video because I was kind of running out of time. So I had to, I didn't have to, but I chose to only use the absolute best, I guess, and what was the best light and what was the most recoverable. But just, yeah, what an amazing fella. We're back to the photography again. And this was around 1984, I think about 2 years before the station closed. You know what's really funny is that story as well comes from everybody. And so since I've been there, the amount of people that have said, it's worth bearing in mind that this place was deserted, right? It was just me and Les, right, waiting for somebody to turn up. And according to Les, people turn up all the time. And so here we are. We're talking to to 2 or 3 people here on this channel. It's a small world, right? And we've all been to this place in the middle of bloody nowhere, and the same bloke has let us through. Like, what an absolute legend. I know Drew's Adventures met him as well. No, it's only you who has to be afraid in SA, Daryl. It's the out-of-staters and the internationals that have to be worried in South Australia. Don't worry, our South Australians got our heads screwed on. We can see a murderer coming a mile away. This is an old aerial image of Tailem Bend. I can't tell you what direction it is. Probably likely east-northeast in 1935. So this was aerial photography of Tailem Bend in 1935. And look at all that. So I'm glad they cleared so much space for the freeway, that's for sure. I think I used this image in the video. This is another Western Langford image. Western Langford is an amazing resource, right? Um, yeah. And you can't find it bank anywhere anyway. So you actually can find a lot of abandoned banks, that's for sure. um, this was Serviceton. Oh, thanks, Kaznik. Um, for each video that I make, I do tend to get a collection of these photos, and I don't always use them or use them for long enough in the videos, because by the time I get to sequencing and putting the video together, just the same sort of thing just doesn't flow, and they don't fit the purpose I thought I had for them. So yeah, so I like to show them afterwards. This was I didn't show you this one, I don't think. This was Serviceton Station in the 1910s. So yeah, this building it's over 100 years old. Well, now it's probably getting close to 130 years old. And yeah, Les is still there. He's probably been there for. It looks like he's been there for 100 odd years or so. And what a bloody legend that he is as well. So there you go, the legend of Les. But this was, yeah, Serviceton Station back 115 years ago. And the overall architecture hasn't really changed. So many of these old stations have aspects of their architecture changed over the years, or they're demolished completely and rebuilt. But this was obviously before Alfred McBain Bonython. This would have been Victorian architects anyway. Another fun fact, Serviceton was built where it is, only a couple of k's from Wolseley, to be a customs point primarily. So this is also another reason why Service Station is so big. It's because when it was built in the late 1800s, you still had to pass through customs when you were travelling on a train between Victoria and South Australia. So you'd have to get off, pay your taxes, run your stuff across the X-ray machine, which they didn't have back then, and then get on another train. So that's also why it was so big. But it was located in a zone that was actually still under dispute when it was built in the late 1800s. South Australia took up a case with the Crown, as it was at the time, to what's the word for it? To protest against the surveying of the border between South Australia and Victoria. So at that stage, about 4 kilometres of territory from east to west was still under this dispute that was yet to be settled. So at that time, they kind of agreed to build it there, as that dispute hadn't been settled yet. So it was almost a no man's land, a 4 kilometre space in late 1800s. I don't remember off the top of my head when that dispute was settled, but at the end of the day, the Crown, or the Privy Council, which is the Crown, found in favour of Victoria. And so that's why the border is where it is, and it's only a couple of k's between Wolseley and Serviceton. Yeah, everyone remembers it because of that bloody ad with Tony Modra. Nobody reads the books anymore about it. But apparently, yeah, South Australia believed that, yeah, the surveyor had made an error. I'm not sure about the poetic sounding nature of it being no man's land. I'm not really sure how that works. But yeah, there you go. Serviceton Station in 1910. And these places, just out in the middle of nowhere, such important stopping places. They just were of strategic importance, social importance, cultural importance, and they were the centre of the universe at that point in time. And here we are back again to the Duke's Highway, folks. So, on that note, we are going to... It's hit 9:05. I'm doing pretty well tonight, although I haven't been talking for as long. I have been talking for much longer than I have been actually on the stream. So let's see next week if I can actually remember to hit the bloody button. Somebody send me a message and make sure I'm still alive if I'm not at 8:15 p.m. next Wednesday. Send me a message on Facebook or whatever, and maybe then I'll realise a bit earlier. That's interesting, Daryl. Did they have a similar border dispute with Coburn, with the border there at Coburn and Burns, or you're talking about the customs thing? I should know that actually. I have to remember when the Silverton tramway was built. I don't remember off the top of my head right now. There's too many facts and figures going through my head, but I did do the video on that, and I'm pretty sure I learnt it at some stage. And yeah, big transshipment point and crew changeover point. I'm guessing train driving protocols were different then, because now train drivers seem to, state borders don't make much difference. So, to everyone who's been on board, particularly to Transport Spider Worldwide Guide, Darryl Phillips, JK, Steve Klink, and O'Malley. Thank you for sticking around while there was not much going on. I I really appreciate it. But yeah, like I'll be repeating that. Send me a proof of life message if I haven't gone on by 20 past 8 or something like that. Because obviously I've forgotten to hit the record button. Um, really appreciate you coming on board to Kaznik One, Josh. Always so great to have your support. Riel, thank you for coming on board as well. Stu's Adventures, always really interesting to have people who have interests in sort of history and the paths and the culture and what's left out there on board. So thanks for being a fellow traveller. Really appreciate it, O'Malley. Always love answering your questions, so please ask more, because then I can talk about more and I can ask more questions of you guys and hear what you all think of the question as well. So when you ask a question in here, please, everyone, feel free to take a shot at it as well. There's been lots going on. I have no idea what's going to be on next week. Perhaps I will do some research for the next video project, which probably will be more locally based. We'll probably finally go check out the old Holden sighting up in Elizabeth there. So I want to thank everybody for coming on board. This has been good chats. We do it every Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. when I remember to hit the record button. So we'll see you next week. Peace.